just waiting for everyone to get in. People coming in. All right. Cool. Awesome. All right. Okay. So I'll give a few minutes for people to for people to come in, and maybe we'll start in a few minutes. Okay. All right. Hmm. I am not seeing the chat though. All right. Okay. So I guess we'll start off now. Give me one sec. I'm trying to see. For some reason, I can't see the comments. Can someone maybe? Okay, yeah, I think I see. Can someone type a comment in the chat? Just want to make sure that everything's working. Okay, cool. Um, all right, let's get started. All right, hi everyone. Thanks for making it to this to our first lunch and learn session. So I'm gonna go through some intros. I'm gonna introduce. So we're gonna go start off with my story and what my background is, and I'll introduce you to the company, Douglas Leadership Academy, what we're about, who our team is, and I will also talk about what this talk is about and what it's not about. I'll tell you how basically I learned these very hard lessons about productivity, getting things done, and prioritization. We'll go into what my philosophy is, which is self-management, meaning that time management is more a function of how you can manage yourself and less so how you can manage time. And so I'll also go through some of my self-management systems that I've picked up over the years and a power method, which is basically just how do you organize all the information that you're consuming on a daily basis. And then I'll take you through some tech stacks that I've picked up over the years, some tools like ChatGPT, V0, Claude, all these tools that allow you to basically multiply your productivity. And then I'll sign off with basically my perspective that a good work ethic deserves a good rest ethic. So just as much as you're being intentional about getting things done, you should also be intentional about taking some well-deserved rest and recovering for the next day. And I think being intentional in both is what keeps you in the game for the long term. And then there will be an appendix where some of the resources that I've picked up over the years are going to be linked there. So I'll send this over to you guys at the end of this call, and you can refer to the slides for your own convenience and click in some of those links and learn more. Okay, and so yeah, quickly, I'm Kevin. I originally from Kampala, Uganda. I was in Makerere University, and I dropped out to pursue entrepreneurship, and I did many, many, many businesses. All right, just a few mentioned here. But by the time I left to the U.S., I was running an Airbnb business. I had four properties, and I was basically subletting from the landlords, and I'll put it on Airbnb. In some cases, I was even renovating like a shell, like an empty house, and I would clean it up a bit, and then I'll put it on Airbnb. And so that was my business at the end of it all. And eventually in 2019, I so in addition to Airbnb, I also worked in education initiatives such as Future Uganda, which was looking for high achieving students throughout Uganda and trying to guide them as they apply to colleges in America. And then I also worked in EJOB, which was a I also worked in EJOB, which was a integrated, unified online application system for public universities. So the way it worked prior is that you would have to file a physical form to all the universities you're applying to. In some case, for private admissions, you would have to like travel to these universities. But then I realized there's no reason you had to do that. This was back in 2018 that you could apply to all these universities using an online form. And so we built something with a friend of mine, and we pitched it to the Ministry of Education, and it was in the middle of being implemented, but then COVID happened, and yeah, as a result, that didn't really work out. But I think all those experiences in general led me to what I'm trying to do right now. So after EJOB and my Airbnb business, I was able to get a full scholarship at the University of Rochester, which I did 5 years, and I stayed for an extra fifth year as a E5 scholar, where I got to work on business ideas. I got to explore a bunch of startup ventures, and eventually settled on education. I also did get a chance to intern at top tech companies and ship products to millions of users at companies like LinkedIn, Google, and Microsoft. And yeah, I think all those experiences really are shaping what I'm doing right now. So a little bit about Douglas Leadership Academy. So what are we about? So Douglas Leadership Academy is, you can think of it as an education tourism company or study abroad company. But honestly, what we're trying to do is we're trying to offer the best education possible to kids by completely extracting them from environments that are not conducive to education attainment. So boarding schools, really. My insight coming to the US is realizing that one of the biggest issues holding kids back, even if they wanted to do well in school, especially the kids who are in the inner cities or so, is the fact that it's kind of hard to study and focus on studying when there's a lot going on in your environment, when there's a high rate of crime, incarceration, and stuff like that. And so I realized that if you could have like an environment where they could go in 24/7 pastoral care, and really just completely removed from that environment, I think you could start to see some drastic outcomes in their student attainment. And so what we're doing is that we're trying to get some high quality, low cost boarding schools in the global south where American students can go and learn. We are also, in addition to, so beyond just being a boarding school, beyond just being a boarding school, we are using the Khan Academy curriculum. And why is that? Because it allows for mastery-based learning where you can serve kids at their own pace. So you don't have to, usually the way traditional models work is that you kind of have to teach to the average. That means there are kids that are getting things very quickly, and there are kids that are getting things very slowly. And as a teacher, you kind of have to teach to all of them. So you end up teaching to the median. But in a mastery-based system, because things are self-paced, then anyone can go as fast as they want to, or they go as slow as they want to, but with the end goal that everyone has the same level of understanding. In this current system, it's usually that if maybe the teacher is moving a bit too fast, you won't truly appreciate what's happening. And so everyone graduates, but some people have A's and some people have C's. In a bursary-based system, we say that, hey, you only graduate once you get an A. That means once you've shown mastery of what you're learning, what you've learned. And so we're doing that together. So there is a free online tool called Khan Academy. It has pre-recorded lectures, and we're basically trying to build a school model on top of that. In addition to some of the things like state vouchers, this is money that's given to. This is money that's given to. It's money that's taken from. If the student is currently in a public school and they want to leave to a private school, some of the money that's being spent on them in the public school will be given to a private school that they can attend. And my insight here is that this amount of money, which is usually around $15,000, is 15, 18, $8,000 to about $18,000 in some of the more expensive states like Washington, D.C. This amount of money can cover tuition, room, and board somewhere in the global south, and even flights, honestly. And so that's what we're trying to figure out with our model. Obviously, this wouldn't be possible with my executive assistants. That's Courtney and Michelle. They are leading efforts on. They are leading efforts in Uganda, trying to work with our century-old boarding schools and trying to get them to adopt this Khan Academy curriculum so that we can offer a more globally competitive, globally recognized curriculum in addition to the local curriculum. This is just to give students more choice, so that if, for example, someone like me who went to a local school but has their sights set on America can have an affordable option, because right now the international schools in Uganda charge maybe as much as 20 times, 30 times, 50 times as much as the local tuition. So by having a more affordable alternative, you can have very high achieving, but let's say low income students having an easier pathway to global universities in the US, such as MIT, Stanford, because these are the kind of universities that the Khan Academy curriculum has allowed students to attend. So, all in all, what is this talk going to be about? Well, it's not going to be about, just wake up at 5 a.m. It's not going to be a one size fits all solution. I'm trying to give you actionable strategies such that you can live here. You can live this call with actual, you can leave this call with actual practical things that you can try as soon as you leave this call, right? And it doesn't assume you have unlimited willpower. And the system is really designed that it understands that you're going to fail sometimes, and it just wants to make sure that despite that, despite your own personal shortcomings, you'll still get things done. That's really what I learned over the years, is that I'm not always going to be at the top of my game, but if I can make systems that ensure that even when I fall short, I still deliver, I'm in the game for the long term. And so that's what I'm trying to share with everyone. Okay. So I'm going to pause real quick here, check the chat, see if there's anything in there. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up? Is everything good? Oh, all right. So it sounds like the chat is disabled. All right. Let me see if I can figure out why. Huh, interesting. So it seems like, oh, okay. It does seem like YouTube just turned off the comments. Hmm. All right. So I made a change. Yes, I think that's because I had it open to. Oh, all right. So I've I've turned on the chat. Could someone say something? I mean, could someone type in the chat? All right. So, all right. Sorry about that, technical difficulties, but I think that, all right. Okay. So it seems like comments are working now. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Going back to how this all started. So I think 2 years ago, I was at Google as an APM, and an APM is basically I think of it like as a mini entrepreneur because you're essentially given a project, right? So something like put stories on Instagram. So something very abstract, and you basically have to come up with you have to flesh out that vision. What are the stories going to look like? For example, if you've posted a story on WhatsApp, can other people see it? How many people see it? What does it look like? Where is it gonna be in the interface? And it's essentially making it feels like making a business of your own, right? And you have to negotiate with multiple stakeholders. For example, in my time, I had to interact with like the Google Drive team, the Google Chrome team, and these all have their different incentives, different agendas, and it's just multiple stakeholders at the same time. So in that situation, and I feel like entrepreneurship is a lot like that because you have so many clients and you have so many suppliers that you have to deal with, and if you don't have a system for managing all these relationships and all these tasks, you can end up getting very overwhelmed, and that's basically what I went through. I was sleeping in the office, working 70 hours a week, and I still got a terrible performance review. And that was because I was working hard, but not on the right things. And so, what I learned from that is that not all tasks are created equal. For example, if you have 1 hour and you're applying to a scholarship in the US, that can change your life. That 1 hour that you spend applying could potentially change your life. Now, 1 hour picking out like the perfect movie for YouTube, or even when let's say you're trying to make like a marketing brochure and you spend an extra hour like trying to make it a little prettier. Now, those are hours that are not going to have as much of a payoff, right? So it's important to see your time as an investor. That means you think about the return on investment. So what do I mean by that? It's that when you see your time not just in terms of like the task, but you kind of see how this 1 hour is going to pay off in the next, I don't know, week, 2 weeks, a year. A good example is, for example, if there is something that you have to do every 3 hours. I mean, sorry, you have to it spends you 3 hours every week, right? So that's about 150 hours a year. But if you could train someone to do that thing, so you could delegate it, right? So those and let's say it takes you maybe 6 hours. Let's say it even takes you 2 weeks to train someone. But if you can guarantee that as soon as you train that person, that they will be able to do that task reliably, then you can save yourself over 100 hours. You can give yourself back 3 hours. And so I'm going to make my message is going to be that you have to think of your time in terms of like the return on investment and focus on what I call high leverage activities. In fact, I'll give you a story from my time at LinkedIn. So I had a manager who was, sorry, a senior engineer, and this person was always in the help channel, right? So whenever you go in the help channel, you would essentially just ask a question, and he would always be there to answer whenever you're stuck, right? And I always wondered, is this person like getting any work done? And one day during our lunch and learn, during our one-on-one, I tried to grab some time with him just to like get some mentorship and understand how he had gotten to the level that he had gotten. And the way he explained it sort of opened my eyes to the way this works. Because he said that, hey, Kevin, I could go and code for 3 hours, or I could be in the help channel and unblock maybe 10 engineers. And those 10 engineers can do almost the same amount of work that I can, right? So I can have a lot more leverage, a lot more impact with my 3 hours helping other engineers get unstuck than doing it myself. And LinkedIn actually rewards this because at the end of like the promotion cycle, he'll be able to show concretely that I helped all these engineers and these engineers had this much impact, and therefore I had this much impact, right? And so looking at things from that perspective can be very paradigm shifting, in my opinion. So I'll pause there and check the chat, see if there is any comments. Okay, all good. All right. So yes, and so this is basically the lesson that I picked is that think about the long term impact of each task and focus on high leverage tasks. And now I'll get into a sort of framework that I got from a good YouTube video that I share in the appendix, but it's basically 5 steps. Okay, whenever a task comes to you, you have one of 5 things to do. So I like to ask myself, can I eliminate this? Like, is this an urgent task? Like, what happens if I don't do it? Because as I'll share, getting things done is really an exercise in what you're not going to do in as much as what you're going to do. Okay, so you ask yourself, do I have to do this, right? And if it needs to get done, can you delegate it? And people think that you need to have like an employee to delegate it. Like, no, for example, I can pay my own siblings to get something done for me, even if I don't want to do it myself, right? Or you can hire someone on Upwork or any kind of delegation, even if it's asking a friend for help, right? So I'll try to delegate as much as I can, so that I can free up my time for the things that only I am able to do. And then automation, I think, is something that doesn't get enough time, especially back home where I'm from. Is that can you develop systems? If you have a task that's recurring again and again, can you develop some kind of system, or can you use some kind of software to automate this process such that you don't have to keep doing it over and over again? And I'll get into some of the tools that can help you do that. But I think some intentionality about how you can automate repetitive tasks is very crucial. And the other one is concentrate. So if it's a very important task and it needs your focused attention, maybe take out some time, schedule some time, maybe an hour or two. And I believe that it's important to time box. That means to give your task a specific time window in which you can get them done, such that because tasks have this tendency to expand beyond their allocated time. And so the way I've found to work with this is to give it like some amount of time and use an external accountability system, right? So set yourself some kind of deadline so that you don't allow perfectionism to creep in and make things take much longer than they typically should, right? And the last one is procrastinating on purpose. So procrastinating on purpose is very different from procrastinating, period. Why? Because procrastinating on purpose means that you put something later on. You put something to a certain date in time when at the point when I guess it's most urgent to do it. So if something's not very urgent right now, you have to be willing to put it off at a certain time. And those are the five principles. Now, for the essential questions that you need to ask yourself, there's this concept called KPIs. So KPIs are, let's say you have a goal. It's not enough to just have a goal. It's also crucial to have some kind of metric that you're tracking to make sure that you're progressing towards this goal. So a good example is, let's say you are trying to get a job, right? It's one thing to say that you're trying to get a job, but I think it's even more important to have some kind of metric, let's say 5 jobs a day or 10 jobs a day. And if you're hitting that metric, then you can allow yourself to rest and know you're doing the best that you can, right? But if you don't have a metric that shows whether you're really putting in the work for your goal, I think it's very easy to lie to yourself that you're actually getting something done when you're actually not. So KPIs are also something that I find extremely beneficial when you're trying to make sure that you're actually working on something important. Now, that's one thing. Those are the essential metrics, right? But there is also the essential questions. So essential questions help you ensure that at any given point in time, you are working on the most important thing. So I think it's a very good practice that every maybe quarter, every month, every week, you sit down with everything you need to get done and you ask yourself, is number one, did I set out to do what I set out to do for the week or for the month? Number two, are these things still important? Like you should be asking yourself, like all these things that have to get done, is this still relevant? And you see, especially if you're an entrepreneur, that sometimes priorities change in real time. And the thing that was very important a few weeks ago is not important anymore. And so you have to always do this exercise of looking at what you need to get done and like reprioritizing. Basically asking yourself, is this still very important? What happens if this doesn't get done? And so that you can actively weed out what you're not going to do, right? And so this pause and reflect is what I call it, has been very crucial for me, to whenever a new opportunity arises, for me to reflect on what I'm currently doing and see if I still want to go the path I'm going, or I should course correct. Now, some people just run down the track without really taking some time to reflect on if this is even the right direction they're going in. And I suggest at least maybe half a year or every year, you just take some time, maybe a week or 2 weeks, and you ask yourself, okay, given everything that's happening in the world right now, should I still be going down the path that I'm going? And it has very interesting implications because, for example, I started out as a doctor. I was as an aspiring doctor, but because of this reflection, I realized that I was more interested in technology and entrepreneurship, right? If I was only just going down this path without reflecting at all, I wouldn't have made some very, very crucial course corrections throughout my life that led me to where I am. So some pausing and reflection, some essential metrics for your goals, are one of the ways that you can make sure that at any given point in time, you are working on the right thing. And that leads me into the other point that I was making a bit subtly in the past, right? And that was ruthlessly prioritizing your time. So I mentioned that knowing how to get things done is really an exercise in picking what you're not going to get done. And so I basically call it becoming a no machine, basically refusing to do most of the things that are assigned to you, right? And if you're an employee, you may not have much of an option here, but I think that there's something to be said about negotiating for higher leverage work. Right. As a business owner, I guess you get to be a bit more picky about the things you take on, but by and large, you should be very, very selective about the commitments you're taking on, and you should have and you should try to give yourself enough of a cushion, right? Such that if anything comes up, an interesting opportunity or some extra work or like a tight deadline, you have enough of a buffer to expand into that time. So I don't think it's always a good practice to overcommit yourself and overpromise, and such that if things go haywire, you don't have any room for expansion. I think that's a mistake I've seen many people make, and it's something that you definitely have to be very intentional about. And this is just a fun fact that for a knowledge worker, you have to come to terms with the fact that you're not going to be productive for roughly more than 5 hours a day, right? And so I think that it's crucial to acknowledge this fact and then see, okay, for my 4 hours today, how am I going to allocate them, right? And if you see it this way, then you understand that your capacity is limited, and you won't be, and you won't be, how can I call it? You won't commit to many things because you know you only have 4 hours, and you'll quickly see that all the things you're committing to are beyond your time budget. And so really acknowledging this fact reduces the guilt with which you have to say no to things. Now, it's one thing to know these things technically, but it's another to actually do those things. I found that even if I fully understood that I needed to prioritize, I needed to say no, I needed to say no to things, I needed to work on the right thing, it wasn't easy to do that. It wasn't even intuitive sometimes. And so this is where the philosophy of self-management comes in. Really understanding that you as a human being, you're going to come short many times, right? And therefore developing systems that don't depend on your own willpower, but depend that regardless of whether you're inspired, you're feeling motivated, you'll still be able to put in the work. And I want to share some of this, I'm going to share some of these tools in the next slide. So a very big one is time blockers, right? So I personally have a blocker for my WhatsApp, for my social media, for everything that's not crucial has a time limit on my phone, on my computer, on my laptop, everywhere. And I think this is very intentional because I noticed that if when I don't have these time blockers, social media can really just take up a lot of your time. Like you can open your social media, your Instagram, and you get sucked in for an hour, and you won't believe where that hour has gone. And so what I found is that having a blocker, and so for example, if you have an iPhone, there's this thing called yeah. So if you have a blocker, there's this thing called I think time screen or something like that. Let me pull it up. Screen time. So on an iPhone, it's screen time, and on Android, I think it's called digital well-being. But the essence is that you can block these apps with a passcode. And so what I do is that I have a friend put in a passcode, and such that if I need to access these apps for beyond my time limit, I have to look for this friend. But the way this works is that it's very effective because checking Instagram or checking this social media, it's an impulsive thing, right? It's not like you need to check this social media at all. So when my 30 minutes, so I give myself 30 minutes for social media a day, right? And as soon as that time reaches out and I can't cheat, I can't ask for extra time because I have this code that I don't know the code. Then it just works in that I don't check the social media. So I found that having some kind of blockers is extremely effective. Another thing is tracking your time. Just using apps that see also like on iPhones they have screen time. You can see how much time you're spending on each of these apps, and you can see where the time sinks are, and you can put necessary blockers to stop you from spending so much time on these things. And then an accountability group. Having an accountability group is another crucial thing, right? So, for example, having someone, having a study partner or having a business partner that you're working with, having some kind of external accountability system, having a board, or generally just having someone that you say you commit to your goals in public, right? For example, I set out this deadline for this lunch and learn. I set it out 2 weeks ago. And I knew that my reputation was on the line if I didn't get it done. And so I worked around the clock to make sure that that happened. And I found that external accountability systems are some of the most effective ways that you can stay on top of your game. So trying to have those accountability systems for yourself, right, is another way that you can ensure that you're always working on the right thing or actually meeting your goals. Now, a few other tricks that I've picked up over the years, for example, having two phones. So if you're dealing with lots of clients, I think it's very important to have two accounts, right? One for your family and personal life, and one for your professional life. And this gives you some kind of work-life balance, such that you're able to focus on work when you need to focus on work, and you're able to focus on your self-time when you need to focus on your self-time. And it also allows that, it makes it possible for let's say your clients not to see your personal stories. And I think this delineation between work and life is not something that I don't see it heavily practiced, especially with some of my friends back home. So I think this having separate phones is something that's very doable and it's very effective. Also curating your social media feed. So I feel like social media could be a very beneficial tool if you follow, because I feel like it's a way to saturate your mind with the right, let's say with your goals. If you're trying to like get into shape, all right, following fitness channels that keep you motivated and stuff like that is one way that you can use social media to keep you motivated. And I found that it's not really a bad thing if you curate your social media feed. That means you actively choose who to follow. If you have people that are, the things they post drain your energy, I think it's in your best interest to mute those people or unfollow them, right? And basically curate your social media such that whenever you open it, you learn something or you feel energized, right? And I don't think people appreciate that this is something that you have control over. So I'll pause there and see if anyone has any comments in the chat, or I should continue. Okay, great. All right, so some of my essential tech stacks. So some of the tools that I've picked up over the years that I think are very essential. I would say they're non-negotiable if you're trying to get things done. For one, I think having a to-do app that where each and every task is in that to-do app. So everything you're going to get done over the next week, I think you should have it in an app or on a sheet of paper. I prefer an app because you can track things. You can see it's easy not to lose sight of things, and it's searchable. You can search it and see what you did maybe 5 months ago, and that's not something you can do in a physical planner. But having some kind of store for your tasks is crucial. And everything that comes in, you just put it in the task, you just put it in the app so that your mind is freed from thinking about these things. You have to free your mind because it's very limited. And so you have an app where you can put all these things. And then having Notion or Google Workspace where you can store all the information that comes to you. Like anything, whether it's a link that you want to refer to or it's a document, like having subscribing to one of these tools and using them actively to store your information and organize it very very well. And I'll go through how that's possible, like how you can really organize your life in a way that you can quickly access anything you've seen in the past. A third thing is a calendar. So I have a calendar. Everyone has a Google Calendar, and I think whenever you have an appointment with someone, putting it in your calendar such that you don't forget it, and also such that you see how much time you actually have in a day, I think is a very crucial practice. And I don't think it's possible to. I don't think it's possible to. I don't think it's possible to have. I don't think it's possible to be a very productive and effective person without a calendar of some sort where you can see all your appointments and maybe deal with multiple clients at the same time. So a to-do app, Google Workspace, and a calendar are non-negotiables in my opinion. And there's going to be AI assistants. Now, this is probably something that's not very common, especially if people are like on the older side. But using tools like ChatGPT and V0. V0 is if you want to make a website for yourself. Right now, AI allows you to build a website using English. You can say something like, "Make me a website for my small business. This is what my small business does." Right? And then it will build a website. And if you're interested, please let me know, and I can have a demo on how I use AI tools in my day-to-day life. I can share my screen and I can show you how I go around that. But right now, you have I think of an AI tool as a very very smart person, right? So I think of an AI tool as a very very smart person that you can use anything that you need to know very quickly. You can ask AI. If you need to, like, let's say, summarize meeting notes, you can use AI. If you're not sure about the direction to go in your business, you can give the AI enough context and it will give you some very good advice. So I think my default is to try AI first. Before I send an email, before I do anything, I'll check with ChatGPT. I'll check with Claude. I pay for both because I've found that they have very different personalities. So they'll give me different advice, and the optimum is basically taking both their advice and comparing it and then using them. So using tools like ChatGPT, using tools like Claude, I think it's worth paying for them. That's the best $20, 70,000 shillings that I spend. I use them every single day, and they allow me to get so much work done that would have taken me maybe weeks prior. But now I can just tell AI that, hey, help me, write meeting notes, help me make a plan for the next week, right? And it makes a plan, and I just have to cross-check that the plan makes sense, right? And so if you're not using ChatGPT or you're not using AI, I think you are missing out on at least maybe 5-10 hours of extra productivity every week. So just to reiterate, having a to-do app, using your calendar, having some kind of organization for your information, and using AI tools can really allow you to do a lot. So the power method. The power method is a way that you can organize everything in your life. So it's split into power stands for projects, areas, resources, and archives. And I'll focus mostly on projects and areas. So projects is it's something where there is an end state. It's for example, if you're going to like you're handling a wedding. So a wedding has a start and end date. So a wedding would be a project, right? And in that project, you can have resources. So if you have, let's say, some marketing brochures or some inspiration for the decorations that you want in your wedding, you can put those things in a resource folder, and then that resource folder can go into your projects, right? And at the end of the day, when the project is done, maybe in a month or in a few weeks, you can archive it and put it in the archive since you're not doing that anymore. But the whole idea is that projects have an end date and areas don't have an end date. So areas are an ongoing part of your life. For example, health. If you're trying to get to the gym, if you're trying to get better at a skill, you're trying to something that requires constant attention and doesn't really have an end date is how I'd think of an area, right? And so I believe that any kind of information that you get can fall into either a project or an area, right? It will be a resource, but it would fall like your tasks and your resources. So it can be a resource that you need to refer to, but that resource would be part of a project or it'll be part of an area. And there is a book that I recommend by this guy called Tiago Forte that goes into this methodology. But once you learn to implement it in your life, what happens is that everything becomes very organized and it's very easy for you to retrieve information even years ago, right? And that comes in handy if you're trying to like work on projects where you're collecting a bunch of information for this project, but you're not really sure when you fully commit to this project. But by the time comes when you're ready to commit to it, you have everything you need in one place. And that makes you very, very productive. So once again, the power method, which splits all your information into projects and areas and resources, and then an archive for projects that have been completed. Okay, so I'll check the chat again. All right, Dan, seem like we have too many questions. So when we're heading towards the end, by the way, of this chat. So my key takeaways is that time management is more an exercise in self-management. So really setting out systems and tools that can allow you to that hold you accountable, but also don't depend on your willpower. So that don't depend on your willpower. So that you can always do what you need to do. Then ruthlessly prioritizing, basically cutting out as much as possible what you're not going to do and making sure that those limited 4 hours you have in a day are spent on the most high leverage activities. And then third, pausing and reflecting will always make sure that you're working on the most important thing in your life. Your career is long, your life is long, and the decision you make at 25 can impact the next 60 years of your life. So I think it's always important to pause at give yourself a week every year or every quarter and just make sure that the things you're working on right now are going to matter in the next 5 years, right? And being willing to course correct when it doesn't make when maybe when things around you have changed, right? Or when you realize whatever you're trying to do isn't applicable anymore. And lastly, trying to delegate and automate aggressively and using tools that expand your impact by 100%, such as some of the tools I've talked about, like the apps, the AI apps, really can make sure that at the end of the day, you are a very productive person. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to be free, but it definitely means that your time is going to do a lot more than it initially wouldn't. I mean, that initially would without these systems. And lastly, I do believe that you have to give yourself permission to fall sometimes and understand that you're not always going to get it right, but it's the intentionality that matters. And also, as you continuously tweak the system. You continuously learn all the ways in which your own self falls short, and then you develop a system. So I think it's always just playing an adversarial role with yourself. Like you kind of set this you set this blocker, but then you see all the ways you're cheating, and then you find a solution for it, right? And I think it's just that intentionality of like putting up systems such that whenever your willpower is not going to help you, like those systems can kind of hold you and hold you accountable and allow you to get work done. Really, that's what I would take. That's what I would take away from this call. Is that I've given you some of the ways that I have come up with, but in your own life, some of these things may not work, but it will be that realization that, hey, is there a way that I can stop myself from cheating myself, right? And you find the ways that work for you, that the ways that you respond to. For me, the ways that I've found that I respond to have been using these tools, have been using external accountability systems, and for the most part, that has worked very well. Yeah, and the one last thing that I will leave with you is to just be very intentional about your rest in as much as your recovery. I like this quote very much, that the best work ethic requires a good rest ethic. So obviously prioritize your sleep, because your sleep allows you to be productive the next day. Any single time that I've compromised in my sleep, I have not been very productive the next day. It's just it doesn't allow you to play the long game. And remember, your career is long. So if you try compromising yourself right now, you will not be able to put in enough work over your career, because sort of like exerting yourself right now causes a slump in productivity over the next days. So I think just pacing yourself and making sure that at any given day you're working on the 3, 4 most important things that you need to get work on. Over time, that compounds. If you consistently do this every single day for the next 4 years, and you have a log of what you got done every single day of the week, and those things were the most important things, I truly believe that in a year or 2 years, you can achieve a lot. You'd be surprised, right? It's that most people can't account for how they're spending their time. Most people are not prioritizing to work on the most important thing. And this is why you can feel like you're working very hard, but you're almost stuck in the same place. And I've been there, and I hope with these tools that I've developed over the years, I've been able to pull myself out of that situation. And I hope that you find any of these things beneficial in your own career development or business development. So maybe this is just chat engagement. You can put in the chat what your biggest time management challenge is. If you currently do you currently track yourself like with metrics or KPIs, you can let us know. But other than that, I will be happy to end the live stream here, and I will monitor the chat in case anyone has questions. But keep in mind that I'm going to share this. 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 I'm going to share this slides with you, and they're going to have an appendix at the end that will have all the links to the resources that inform me about all these techniques. So thank you so much for attending our Lunch and Learn. We'll be having this once every 3 weeks. And me and my executives will always come up with topics. Some of the topics have been shared in a Google form. And yeah, we hope we'll kind of see what themes are coming up again and again, what themes we have expertise in, and we'll share free public lunch and learns for everyone to kind of drop in and learn from us. So thank you so much for coming in. 98 people is... This is my first lunch and learn, so I'm very humbled that people dialed in to see what I have to share, and I'm extremely grateful for everyone to make it here. So thank you so much, and yeah, that's it.